Hello, my loves. Welcome to the May Soul Message. It has been a long journey to get here. I am on the other side of COVID, and so I'm going to do my best to get through this without the racking cough that keeps wanting to come through. So, the theme this month is the future is now. And I need to unpack that a little bit to help you understand what that means, because you hear the future is now and it sounds like, oh, it's just a fresh start, okay, what we've been waiting for is here. But it's a little bit more complicated than that. Okay, my cat has decided that this is the moment that he's going to come on the table, so we'll hope the camera doesn't go flying. So the future is now. There's a little bit of, I almost feel like I want to speak specifically to empaths, to sensitives, because I am one, and it has this ring of, nostalgia from childhood. That way that you wanted to be seen as a child that maybe didn't happen. And there's a tenderness here. And so when I'm talking about the future is now, there's this sense of the world that you were built for. Hello, honey. The world that you were built for is finally here. So there's a way that especially, this is why I'm speaking to empaths and sensitives and intuitives, because the things that we are good at, the world has not been ready for. And so it's like we've been, our whole lives running around with all of these gifts and brimming with all of this possibility and gifts and tools that the world has not been ready to receive, because the world has not seen value in it, because it has all been arced over to this masculine left brain patriarchal, hamster wheel, punch the clock, do the checklist, get the to-dos done. As one of my new teachers talks about it, the owe-earn paradigm, I owe and I have to work to earn worthiness and value. And so what I mean a little bit about the future is now is that time is changing on an energetic plane. I've been waiting for this my whole life, but specifically on the, on the threshold, at the brink, brimming with excitement for this change to come, because I've been feeling it for years now. And I'm here to tell you that it is finally here. Now, you might not see it in the physical, the way that the world is physically presenting, but energetically, it's like we've popped over into the new earth, and people are ready and willing. And I think some of this, it's so synchronistic that I actually got COVID finally 2.5 years into it with zero problem before. Because it's so synchronistic, and I always have to go through the energy before I report it. It's become this mandate experience that I've come to love somewhat and understand. And so it's all synchronistically happening in there. COVID as a whole for everyone shut the world down, got everyone so quiet and so silent that we had to contend with all of the shadows that were bare, all the wounds that were the shadow parts of ourselves that were hanging out in the corners, that we were able to suppress until the world got so slow that we couldn't suppress it anymore, that we couldn't not see it. And so it's we've collectively gone through this period of having to look at the dark corners of ourselves and of society. And it's we've gotten to a point where we've seen enough of that now. We have been humbled enough that we have, our Achilles heel has been tapped on, and we're more willing now that we have been brought to our knees. And so when I say the future is now, there's part of it that is the future that you've been waiting for since you were a little kid is actually here. And the energy to play and create and make mischief and make magic and make that into the thing that you're here to do, make that into your career, like the energy that's present in the world now is finally showing up to support that. So amen for that. The other piece of it, there's a thing here with the future is now, where the past, the present, and the future are all happening simultaneously in every now moment. Now, this has always been true, but we have not been moving slow enough to actually experience the reality of that being true. And I feel like that energy, the awareness of that, has never been more potent than it is right now. The fact that your past, your wounds, your childhood experiences create how you feel in the now moment, which creates your future. So if you have unprocessed fear, trauma, drama, whatever from childhood that is informing, because it always is, no matter how you feel about it, it is always informing your now moment. And your now moment is always informing your future. So if you have a wound of not being seen, that not being seen is showing up in the present moment right now. It's affecting your job. It's affecting the way you show up with your people right now. And it's going to affect your future because it's how you relate to yourself and how you feel about yourself. And so that might all sound terrifying, but it's also beautiful in the same moment because it means you can affect the past and the present and the future all right now in this now moment. And you can change and upgrade and alter that at any time. You can go back and rewrite your history just by having a different opinion of it. So you can have the exact same experience that happened in childhood and in this now moment have a different perspective about it via whatever, intuitive healing work that I do, channeled messages, something you read, something you came through in therapy, something a friend said. Like in any now moment, your perspective on something can be shifted. And as your perspective shifts, it changes how you feel about something that happened in the past, which changes your present moment, which changes your future. And so when I say the future is now, I also mean that the future is happening in every now moment. So if you feel terrible about yourself, you're not going to be very inspired to go create work and go to do this thing. Maybe you have an experience like something that I'm experiencing is seeing parts of my childhood that through this last week of COVID, which is a spiritual experience in and of itself, and I'm not saying that it can't harm people long term or, whatever is going on. I'm not trying to be flip about it. But in my experience after having had this, I would say, what is everyone trying not to get this for? Because this is like the most transformative experience you could have just by having this, because it brought me to like a hall of mirror, like a horror hall of mirrors of all of the ways that I treat myself, the ways that I talk about myself, the ways that I'm hard on myself. I have never realized until this last week, intimately up close and personal, how hard I am on myself. And what's so profound about this shift is realizing how hard I am on myself is to realize that I'm the only one that's doing that. And if I'm the only one that's doing it, then I'm the only one that can change it. And this is, again, the whole past, present, future thing happening in this now moment, because the way that I'm hard on myself is because of programming from my past. But if I don't arrest it and realize, okay, but the situation that I'm in right now is entirely different than that, but I'm recreating all the pain and suffering from the past and bringing it forward and giving it to myself right now, which is entirely jamming everything up that I do about my future, about everything. And there's this other beautiful piece that's tied into this. I did a reel about this a couple weeks before I got sick. And I was talking about the thing that you are here to do is the thing that you that is the thing that comes most organically to you. It's the thing you don't even have to think about. It's literally the essence of who you are is the thing that you're here to do. And you could teach the same subject as 20,000 other people have taught, but it will come across differently based on your energy and the way that you see it and the way that you language it and the way that you bring it forward and the way that you filter it through your old wounds that you have now made your purpose. And all of that is here. All of that is here this month. I feel like, here we are in the 5th month of the year, and it occurred to me the other day, oh my gosh, the year is half over. And for me personally, as an entrepreneur, this has been the year that I have created the least amount of content. And it is scary. I've done the least amount of groups and classes. I haven't taught my mentorship this year. All these things. And this is the other message that's coming through right now too, though. In the hall of mirrors that this year has been, the hall of horrors that this year has been in some ways, because we have had to look at so much of our own internal darkness. In all of that time, the thing that I have learned is sometimes the thing that looks an utter mess is the thing that is progress. The thing that looks like an absolute horror show train wreck is progress. But we think of progress as the thing that looks shiny, shiny, happy people. It's like we think it's the polished version, it's the outcome of all the hard work that we've had. But a lot of times the progress is happening in real time. It's the pain that's happening in real time and the progress and the tears. I am telling you that during this last week of COVID, I have cried so much and all stuff that I had no idea was even happening inside. And that the bravery that it takes to be with your feelings, to be with your present moment and what's coming up and what's happening, far withstands the bravery of getting over the hurdle and having learned the lesson and now coming to teach the thing that you learned. But the bravery that is required in the moment of letting the emotion start to wave up and letting yourself go with it and dive into it. And I don't mean, what's the word? I don't mean laying in, self-pity. That is not what I'm talking about at all, period. What I am talking about is being willing, being brave enough to go into those feelings to get the information that's housed inside of them. Because if you are always avoiding the hard feelings, if you're always avoiding the shadow, you are never going to get the information that lives inside of those feelings. We have feelings and emotion for a reason. Energy in motion. If you can't sit with it, you can't get the information that's on the other side of that energy. So everything that's happening collectively, and of course we're inside of eclipse season, we're also inside of a Mercury retrograde right now, so don't expect things to go very quickly. So when I say the future is now, I don't mean hit the ground running, suddenly do everything right now that you haven't done earlier in the year. I don't mean that at all. What I do mean is that it finally feels like the year is beginning. And my sense is that we are going to have the information in the next 6-7 months that is going to feel like a whole year's worth of information. And the other thing that I'm really coming to, this is definitely happening for me, is this sense that, what's been happening for me since the beginning of the year is this arresting of information. I usually channel constantly. I'm constantly getting information. I know I'm being led by spirit. I know what, classes, what offerings to offer based on what I feel in the collective. And that has not been happening this year. This year, it has been just like an arrest of no information coming through. And it's wildly uncomfortable because I have to just sit with what is and literally sometimes sit on my hands and go, okay, I want to create something. I want to be doing something, but now is not the time, because now has been the time of feeling and getting through the other side of it. Because whatever it is that we are all independently and collectively creating is coming out of the wisdom and the information that we're getting from all the hard shit, from all the crying, from all the tears, from letting everything go. So I have let literally everything of my business go. I have not taught a mentorship. I let go of Women's Circle. I let go of Moon Ceremony. I've almost let go of Soul Message. And then I'm like, no, I'm not going to let go of that, because that even helps me. Like, I need that check-in regularly. What I have let go of is doing it the way that I used to do. I used to write the entire blog first, then I'd sit down. Now I'm doing it with no notes, and I'm just sitting and going with whatever comes, because I'm leaning into trusting spirit more and saying, okay, can I lean into my gifts and know that I know what I know and I don't need to prep it beforehand. And so I encourage all of you to do that too. Like, really lean into your organic gifts. What are they? And let yourself own and claim them, and let yourself charge for them as well if you're an entrepreneur and that's something that you want to do. Okay, let me talk about the oil for this month. So last month we had acceptance. And it's because I was feeling this sense of like, we have to accept where we are, and before you can do anything about it. And this month, the title of this, The Future Is Now, and the oil came like 2 weeks ago, well before I got COVID. And the oil is forgiveness. And if you don't have the forgiveness blend, but you happen to have hyssop, HYSSOP, that is also the forgiveness oil. So if you have that one, you could sub it with the forgiveness blend. And the forgiveness, let me talk about this because it's so important. It's like we have to get through and move through forgiveness before we can get to the other side of truly giving our gifts and letting go of the parts of ourselves. Because whether you're an entrepreneur or not, we are being called to let go of this hamster wheel bullshit that we've all been on. The 9 to 5, showing up, working for other people, doing stuff that does not organically come from our heart, from what we are here to do. I have been feeling this since I was in my early 20s when I graduated college. We do not come here to sit in cubicles and do work for other people to build a profit for other people. We all have beautiful, unique gifts that have to do with connection and community and collaboration and joy, for God's sake, and happiness and, continuity and fluidity and dance and play and music and magic. And we are here to do those things together. And yes, we have to earn money so that we can, pay for the things that it costs to live life. But those are the hooks. Those are the ways that they get us into that 9 to 5 thing, because they tap on fear and they make us worry that, like, oh my God, well, we have these needs and we have to have our needs met and da 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 da. Well, if you are brave enough to dumb yourself all the way down to like, what are my actual needs, and realize that they're very few and far between. And a lot of them have more to do with connection and community and friendship and relationship and all of those things than they actually have to do with buying stuff. There's freedom in that anyway. But let me get back to forgiveness. Forgiveness, it has, in my experience, it has a lot of the energy of feeling like you're eating crow. And I realized, as I said, I had that thought came in right before I went to sit down to record. And I was like, oh, and wouldn't you know that crow is one of my cards for the year. But forgiveness is like, there's a forgiveness of other people, and also it's a circle. It's really about forgiving ourselves and the ways that we misunderstood things. We misunderstood people. We misunderstood ourselves. We misunderstood life and all of that. And there is this gentle eating crow, but it's also, and there's kind of a grief energy that sits in that, which is what I think COVID is all about. as an illness for everyone to get tapped into where they're holding and storing grief in their lungs. But there is, like, at the bottom line, I feel like at the very bottom of the underworld, when we're looking at our shadow selves, the very bottom energy to me feels like forgiveness. Forgiveness of yourself for not seeing the inner abandoned parts that you left behind, that you shoved down because other people told you they weren't good enough. But only you can make those parts good enough. And only you can hold space for those parts that have been abandoned. And that's this whole, like, you got to forgive yourself for doing that in the first place. And then you got to forgive those parts for showing up the way they did, because that was all they had. That was, they were doing the best with what they had and trying to get your attention, honestly. Like, our shadow parts act a fool like that because they're trying to get our attention. Our body is trying to get our attention. When we have pain, when we have discomfort in our body, it's always, everywhere in our, okay, well, I guess that's our card. Everywhere in our body. Oh my God, it's the hunter that we had last month. Are you effing kidding me? Okay, so again, like, that is so beautiful. The future is now, and also it's in the past. From last month, it's the exact same energy that we had last month. And then the immediate, thought is like, oh, well, that's not good enough. That's not good enough to look at something from our past and let it teach us something new in the present, which is also the future. Okay, let me find this and read it again. Here we go. Okay, the hunter, the seeker, the pursuer, the predator. As my tiny little predator walked across the table at the beginning of the video. Okay, the hunter hunts. They are on a precise mission with an aim. To return home empty-handed would be to fail, which is not an option in the hunter's eye. This archetype will journey far and wide, seeking the prize that calls to its heart or stomach. Tales of bravery and feats of strength often result, creating a life full of adventure. The hunter is skillful, quick, decisive, and results-oriented. Like the great hunting goddess Artemis, who carries her quiver upon her back, the hunter typically has a weapon of choice. When this card appears, it is critical that you ask 3 questions. What am I hunting? Why am I hunting it? And is the weapon I hold so tightly in my grip truly needed for the task at hand? I am so glad that we got this card again and that I was reminded of that. Because one of the things that I did quickly jot down on my notes that I forgot, because this is the thing, I jot the notes down and then I don't look at them anyway, is the why. So this is something that's been coming up for me deeply, and it's why I just posted in my stories today a request from all of you about what it is that you need right now. Because I can sit over here and create content all day long for myself and by myself. As an entrepreneur, like, it's the most lonely thing ever, because you're always working, by yourself, and you don't have that feedback loop, which is so important for me. Because we can all create content all day long. But unless and until it actually comes from a why, like, why are you creating it? The only reason I'm creating content is because I want to help and support people. Because I do intuitive healing sessions, and if nobody knows that I do that, and nobody knows the power of doing that, they will never know to come, and they will never know how transformative their life can be. By diving in and looking into those shadow parts and seeing what hooks they have, what old patterns are operating, outside of their awareness. So I'm really glad that came through, because this sense of why, like discovering what is your why. What is your why for being here? What is your why for whatever it is that you offer? What is it that you want to do before you die? What is the one thing that you would be horribly disappointed about if you were to die tomorrow that you didn't get to do? I mean, get in touch with these questions, because this is the energy for this month. Like, the universe wants you to discover who you are. The universe wants to support you. It does not want you to come here and spend your entire life working on the wrong shit and never getting to the purpose that your soul had before you came here. The universe is supporting you always and wants to help you get there. But if you're just constantly on the treadmill and not asking these questions and not taking the time, which is why I think COVID happened for all of us, so that we could get in deeper touch with that. And it's like we've let go of so much stuff now that there's almost nothing left. And it's finally getting time to start building and recreating, but they're being very cautious with us and saying, but you cannot build from the old way, in the old way. You can't just build to build. You have to be doing it with purpose and, you know, with being connected to the wounding that is now your purpose. Like you have to be in touch with transforming it in that way. Okay, so when light, focused, energized, respectful, seasoned. See, Robin Arson, the Peloton teacher that I listen to all the time, she always says, I've never met an interesting person that had an easy life. And isn't that the truth? When dark, irresponsible, violates, violent, poaching. To go deeper, Frida Kahlo's The Wounded Deer. Study the Greek goddess Artemis. Notice her nuanced relationship to the moon, the earth, and the feminine. The predator honors its prey with a precise and skillful hunt. The hunt deeply reveres the life it aims to take. When you activate the hunter archetype, you are aligning your energy with the great creatures of the world, the lion, the wolf, the tiger, the shark. Do so with care. Yeah, because this is not for the faint at heart. So there you go. I hope that that came to some conclusion, because I feel like it was a little bit all over the place, which is sort of what COVID feels like. And, but I feel like that's an energy as well that we're being asked to touch in with. And it's the energy of the feminine. Instead of the left, right, linear, fast pace, this is the way we're doing it. We're asking to get in touch with the circular nature of the feminine. And, you know, I don't know about you, but to me, it always feels like the best lessons come when you sort of surrender to what you're being called to move into and not to have the answers. And it's in that not having the answers that the answers come after you have surrendered to the journey. So I hope that helps you. This is nearly a half an hour. I love you. Reach out with questions. I'm always here to help. And I do want to create content that supports the people. So I am thinking about Women's Circle again. I am looking into making a membership platform on my website. And I'm looking at mentorship again, which I think is only going to be 6 months long, moving through a little bit different territory. I'll let you know when I know more about that. But I'm finally feeling the spark of creativity as well, that like, okay, I'm ready to build content, but I want to do it collaboratively. I want there to be a sense of I'm, meeting the needs of the people, not just creating to create. So let's all get out there and do our work and share who we are and what we have with the world, because we need that as we rebuild this world going forward. We need offerings that have purpose and passion, and they have you in them inherently. They have you, the energy of who you are, your unique fingerprint, your unique signature. We need all of that and more. Okay, love you. Namaste. Have a wonderful month.